So, we meet here at Inspire on the second and fourth Sundays of the month. And on the second Sunday, we are blessed to have Reverend Alfreda Lanoix, like today. Yeah, Reverend Freda. And on the fourth Sundays, we have our co founder, Reverend Jesse Brune Haran. So we are still meeting on Zoom for the time being. And so please join us here. We're happy to be able to connect on Zoom while we can't all get together in person. So, what a blessing to have this technology that also allows us to have people all over the world. We've got Poland, we've got South Africa, we've got Washington, D.C., we've got Bakersfield, we've got LA, and maybe other places. So, if you're from somewhere else, please put it in the chat. I'd also like to take a moment to let you know about our prayer ministry. If you have a prayer request, we are here for you. You can send us an email. You can do a form on our website, inspiredspiritualcommunity.org. You can reach out in the Facebook group. But we're here for you. So if you have a prayer request, please don't hesitate to contact us and we will hold you in prayer. And also want to acknowledge that we have an amazing service committee, which is Garrick Angel, Tom Hennessy, and Casey Carroll. And we're so grateful to be able to serve you together. So thank you all. If you're new to the service, we do have a blessing for you, and it's really a blessing for all of us because with these blessings just amplify, and they're for everyone. So let's raise our hands, rub them together, and raise our hands to you, and we say, "Welcome to Inspire." We know who you are. You are a beautiful and unique way the divine is expressing itself on the planet. We see you, we love you, and we welcome you home. Welcome to Inspire. So, we're going to go into our opening meditation and prayer. So, I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Put your feet flat on the floor if you can, and just allow your eyes to gently close, arms and legs to uncross, and make yourself open and available for spirit to flow through with ease and with grace. And let's take a nice, long, deep breath of love and gratitude together. Breathing in love, breathing in gratitude, and exhaling everything that came before this moment. Breathing in more love, more gratitude, and exhaling, allowing all of your cares and worries to gently float away. And let us imagine a small ball of bright white light rotating clockwise in the center of your chest. This ball of light is about the size of a tennis ball, and as you place your attention on it, it begins to expand. This beautiful white light continuing to expand, filling your chest and moving up past your shoulders into your neck and filling your head. Beautiful white light expanding, flowing down your arms into your hands and fingers, moving through your torso, into your hips, your legs, your knees, your calves, your ankles, feet, and toes. Your entire physical body is one with this white light. Every bone, every muscle, every organ, every cell, atom, and electron of your being soaked and saturated in this brilliant, beautiful white light. This light is restorative, it's rejuvenating, it raises your vibration to its natural state. the high frequency of divine love. And this light continues to expand beyond the body into the auric field, creating an orb of light 3 feet all around you. Let's take a moment to breathe in and feel the effects of this light. The light continues to expand to fill the room you're in, the building you're in, floods out onto the street, filling your neighborhood. The light continues to expand through your city, your state, your country, your continent. It seeps into the ocean, instantaneously envelops the entire planet, uniting every living being. Collectively, we see the planet surrounded and enfolded in this light. Appearances of war, poverty, dis-ease dissolve and disappear. For when the light appears, the darkness must fade. And after a moment, we can see the planet, the universe, everything we can comprehend and beyond is one in this light. And we breathe in this light. We breathe in, recognizing our oneness, our divinity, our connection. And we send love and light and peace to ourselves, to each other here, and to the entire world. So let's take a moment in silence to breathe in this light and send the light and love around the world. Mother, Father, God, divine love, infinite intelligence, all that there is, we are so grateful for the opportunity to join together in community, our beloved Inspire spiritual community. So grateful to connect to each other and to spirit, knowing and remembering the truth of our oneness and perfection in God, remembering that all the qualities of God are within us. And so we actively access and activate and share those qualities now, knowing that we are love, that we are peace, we are freedom itself, we are abundance, we are joy, we are all of the goodness of God. And so we bless this service. We know that it is perfect. We know the perfect configurations of souls have joined together to share in this message of love and peace and hope and joy. And so we just place on the altar anything that may be troubling us, any fears, worries, or doubts, anything that would keep us from being fully connected right here, right now, fully present right here, right now. We let go of anything that no longer serves us, anything we're willing to release and just leave behind. We're setting it down. We're so grateful that we can do that. We anchor ourselves in the truth, setting our intention for this service and allowing intentions for the new moon to start to percolate within us. What seeds do we want to sow? What do we want to cultivate? What are we planting? What are we ready to experience and let flourish in this life? And so we're so grateful to consciously go forward with love, with peace, with joy, into this service, knowing its goodness will ripple throughout the planet. And we dedicate the merit of our practice to every living being, especially anyone who is alone or suffering today. We honor them and we recognize that we are all one. In grace and gratitude, I release this word. I allow it to be, and so it is. Amen. Hmm. And so now I am so grateful to bring up Reverend Tom Hennessy for our mission statement. Reverend Tom.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Inspire. Our mission statement, if you want to say along with me, Inspire is a spiritual community of like minded souls committed to walking our talk in joyous fellowship by demonstrating the power of love, compassion, and non judgment every day in every way. Recognizing the divinity of all life, we stand united by actively liberating humanity by healing judgment, fear, and shame within ourselves. Our intention to create world peace, piece by piece. Woohoo! And now it's my honor and pleasure to present to you Patsy Moore, been a long time member here at Inspire. Take it away, Patsy.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. I have to say that the dominant feeling that I'm having today, the way I'm overtaken by gratitude for so much. Not the least is having an opportunity to come and share with you in this way. I was thinking this morning while I was getting ready about in the original Greek, the word amphitheater, its meaning in the original Greek is literally the place that sees in both directions. The idea being that in the sharing of this performative art, the performer has an opportunity to see the audience member clearly and the soul of the audience member clearly, and the audience member has the opportunity through what is being performed to see the performer clearly, the humanity in the performer, the shared humanity, the oneness. And that's the great blessing, the great gift of art, of literature, the way it reminds us at every turn that we're not alone. That as unique as our filters are and as distinct as our circumstances may be, that in the end, we're walking each other home, we're sharing these experiences. And the writer is given this lovely task of finding the words to articulate things that sometimes reside in a place so deep that we can't access the language ourselves. And so, and with respect to poetry, today it's National Poetry Month, first of all, which is yay. This is a book of original poetry and black and white photography that I put out into the world a short while ago. It's called Once Upon a Lover, and I was asked to read some pieces from it for you today. The audio book version of this is actually going to be released later in the month in honor of National Poetry Month, and so I hope you'll avail yourselves to it. It'll be available on Bandcamp. I just want to say this one more thing, sort of as an introduction, sort of to set the stage for what I'm about to read. So from the end of 2011 until the very early part of 2013, I was in a romantic relationship that really put me through quite a bit of change emotionally, as those situations often do. And toward the end of it, I was doing some cleaning up at home, my home office, and I discovered on the computer desktop that there was an unmarked folder. And I opened it up, and it seems to have become this repository for ideas I had, little seeds for things I could write, and also an awful lot of poetry. And it was at that moment that I recognized that I had been writing poems pretty steadily for the time that I was in that relationship. And I wasn't even aware of how much of it I'd written. I was unaware of this full documentation that these pieces gave to the experience I was coming out of. I also realized it was the first time I'd written poetry in many years. So there was something about being in that emotional exchange that opened this up in me again, and I'm grateful for that. The experience I had this morning opening up these poems, which are among those that were in that folder, was one of enormous gratitude, because I was reminded of the two functions of this kind of work. The first is it is an opportunity to process. And I looked at these works and realized they were processing all of it: enormous joy in the beginning, enormous anguish in the end, and all the stuff that came in between. It gave me a chance to have this vehicle through the passing of grief, and that was a blessing. And that it was also a reminder in the current day that we really are able to see our way through these dark nights of the soul, that these events are chapters in the book that we're writing all the time of our life. And I was so grateful to be able to visit some of these pieces that were written during periods of great suffering, and to not have that suffering revisited, instead to have them lead me to a place of rejoicing, that that in all of that, even in the misery, I was being held, and I was being reminded of my vast capacity to love and be loved. And so yeah, I just wanted to say that. The dedication in the book is, I'll read it to you. It says, "For those who've traveled the arcs of love affairs and who in losing lovers found themselves." And it opens with a quote from William Faulkner, that I think touches on the other really wonderful thing that happens often by way of poetry. The quote is, "Memory believes before knowing remembers, believes longer than recollects, longer than knowing even wonders." I'll begin with number two, and the title is Architect. The corner lamp fans a skirt of pale gold, skims a muscly shoulder. You squint at blue-lined paper, draping my lap, trace it, scribble musingly, two precise fingers. Tilting your head to a side, you remark that I write like an architect. I steal into slow-forming pleats, gathering your face into sleep and smile, and consider the possibilities without exception of life spent sketching, modeling, for you, with you, a profusion of days drafting brazen hearts, and as many nights dreaming schematics. What shall we see built together? What beautiful curvilinear postmodern thing? Speak to me of tartan grids and juxtaposition, of symmetry and tectonics, of articulation and fenestration, of form, of shell, of balance, of merging. Speak to me of love. 3, as seen from the Holy of Holies. A thing I never told you is that I saw you that evening, paused in the doorframe, half illuminated by hall light. From that angle, in that darkness, how could you know that I was awake, watching you, watching me, and holding my breath? You took my breath away. This is how it was in the time of our signs and wonders, fear and trembling. I never told you that I saw you, tender, undercover, wordlessly pleading, eyes on the prize, hands around my heart, foot out the door, halted in its frame, half illuminated by the hallway light. 5, trigger. We have been this beautiful forever, and it only required a freely given stolen kiss, a bead of sweat fastened like a bobblehead baby to a swinging hip, a Rorschach ricochet, an unbroken line from your left eye to mine to see it. 6, palatable. Find me in the watermelon lining of your cheeks. I am the floss of mango picked from your teeth, and the vestige of whiskey, beaded and glistening, cradled in your Cupid's bow. For 5 straight days, no sense has rivaled taste. Fried perch with collard greens, lemongrass confection, your prized pie still blistering from the oven, my mother's casserole, faintly redefined. Tomorrow I take my leave, and with it the plum in your lip balm, the palm nut in the trench that parts your breast, and the whipped butter recall of pancakes in bed shortly after dawn, you licking sweet from my chin. 7, insecurity. Insecurity lengthens its wings, hovers greedily, swoops and ravages. We are carrion, you and I, mangled by defiant refusals to pardon imagined imperfections. We lie rotting in the sun, unable to make peace with a gapped smile or a gasping bank account or an overgrowth of blood vessels or an undercurrent of melancholy or the covey of bug-eyed boogeymen banging about in the closet. Sheathed in the pall of having too many times loved and lost, we are so consumed by the ways in which we are certain we do not measure up, that we are indifferent to the ways in which we are certain to possess an embarrassment of treasures. Ten, irreversible. No warning that once one has strapped oneself to viscera, tasted icterin, smelled ultramarine, the thing is irreversible. No warning that you would offer yourself piecemeal the choicest pieces first, only to lower your gaze when embarrassed by the sight of my veracity. No warning of the consequence of surrender, the cruelty of consent, the depreciation of elan, or that in thousands of twilights to follow, I would be loath to consider anything save for the sensation of you. No warning that once one has straddled fever, heard Feldgrau, touched vermilion, the condition, there is no reinstatement. The condition, it would seem, is irreversible. And finally, I'm going to read 12 for you. This is The Way Home. Expect a detour on your way home. Something magnificent and stripped bare will beg to be touched, and you, spellbound, will touch it. It will recoil, make itself so small as to become invisible, and you will question everything you ever believed. Near red rocks, through 5 points, you will morph into a hepcat's reed, moistened by full lips, a solicitous tongue, a cultivated embouchure that entices your secondhand moniker from silhouette and sighs it into magic. And you will not see it coming, and you will watch her going in slow motion, going mute, going callous, erstwhile affection iced over by summary dismissal, handling you as though you are a stranger or less, as though she never held you firmly, as though you never inked her onto your skin, as though you never dared to unlatch and spill and thirstily habit the ruts of one another's reel, as though together is the most savage of all the illusions, as though your existence is the most pronounced of all her inconveniences, as though there was never anything but caprice, 5,280 feet above sea level. What would not see you haunted a minute longer by what you have neither power nor province to change, petitions you to forgive the flagrant acts of sabotage and the floundering attempts at acquittal and the irrationalities of dread and the impracticalities of passion, and mother for assigning you her flame, and father for according you his flood, and movies and poetry and song for centuries of mawkish bullshit. Forgive her, forgive yourself, and mistaken identity, and the complicity, duplicity of bystanders, and the way home, which will grow dark before you grow light again, light enough to drift back to you. Thank you.
Oh, Patsy, thank you. Thank you. That was absolutely gorgeous. And please put into the chat where we can get your book. But I just, before we hand it over to Reverend Frida, I just want to thank you, and I want to thank you for sharing something beautiful out of a difficult experience. And difficult, I think, is a light word for some of the experiences, but reminding us that we can make something beautiful out of every experience that we have, and that everything that we go through is a learning for us, and this is our spiritual practice, and this is how we go home, and this is how we benefit each other and the planet. So thank you for doing the work, and so beautifully. Really appreciate it. And now I'm so grateful that it's second Sunday and Reverend Frida is here. And I'm so grateful to bring up Reverend Alfreda Lanoix to share her wisdom. Reverend Frida.
Wow. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my God. Seriously, how can I follow that? I mean, like, I'm crying within. Um, Patsy, you had me at watermelon lining. Oh my God. Um, Questioning everything you've ever come to know. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful insight into love and relationships and what it is that we go through. And like Amita says, being able to take that pain and to be able to convert it into the insight and the love and the strength that not only you are getting from it, but you're able to share that with us. Thank you, Patsy. And I love you and I miss you so dearly. Whew, okay. I don't know. I'm in a space, Derek. I'm in a space. I'm in a space. She took me there. She took me there. And I knew she would. I knew she would. And when I saw her name, I said to myself, girl, are you going to be able to come back, bounce back? Thank you, Patsy. I remember when I first came to Inspire, and I remember the very first time you happened to be the musical uh, um, uh, person that particular day, and that the song that you chose to sing, it haunts me to this particular day, how deep it was, because it was a song that really surpassed your understanding and went directly to your soul. So thank you for always sharing your gifts and your insight and your realness with me and with the world. Thank you. So I'm honored. Whew, okay, let me get it together. Okay, so today our topic is emerging with grace. And when I got this topic, it really allowed me to begin to really define grace for myself, and how has grace impacted and or worked in my life. Um, and what I come to realize is that when you are emerging from grace, that is making the statement that it is a inside job, that grace is that which is within each and every one of us. Grace is a gift that has been given. Grace is generosity. Grace is the higher power that comes from, whether we call it God, whether we call it love, or whether we call it the universe. And the thing about it is that everything, and I've said this before, that we need in order for us to be who we are is within. Grace is one of those tools that is within. It has always been there. And the more I studied about grace, the things that came to the forefront was Grace is something that you don't have to earn. Grace is something that you don't have to deserve. Grace is something that is simply given freely for you to assist you on your journey. And a lot of times we don't even recognize or realize that we have this wonderful thing called grace within our lives. Grace is always there. Life shows up, life does what life does, but grace is always there to assist you when life is showing up in a way that may not be for your highest good. Grace, because God is love, grace is the gift of love which invites us into a relationship with the universe, with the source that exists. Whew. It is one of the greatest gifts that has ever been given. And most of us don't even know that we have it because grace is like a muscle that you have to cultivate, that you have to recognize, that you have to be aware of, that you have to begin to practice, that you have to begin to use for your benefit. Now, in order for someone who has grace, it takes some steps in order for us to begin to know the spiritual art of grace. First, you have to come into the awareness that it exists, that it is there, and it is something that you have to choose. See, the thing about love and life and free will is that you always get this opportunity to choose which direction you're going to go, to choose how you're going to handle different situations. Grace is one of those things that it doesn't force itself upon you, but it is just always there. Grace allows you to realize that nobody in this world is without shortcomings because we come here to experiment and experience life. And sometimes some of those experiments and some of those things that we go through might not be for our highest good. Grace allows you to be gentle with yourself when you make those choices that no longer serve you, when you are not being kind to yourself, when you are not being loving to yourself. Grace allows you to be gentle, to accept your choices without judgment, and to be able to move on. See, grace is always there. Doesn't make a judgment call. It's just there for you to begin to say, wait, this choice does not work for me. Or I don't like the way I responded in that situation. Or I gave my power away in that situation. Grace will allow you not to hold things against yourself, but to understand that you have done your best in that situation because grace knows we're all doing our best. Grace is acceptance, knowing that we are all the same. Patsy said something earlier is that we're all walking our way home. We might be on different journeys, but we are going in the same direction. And grace allows you to realize that the direction that I'm choosing might not be the direction that she's choosing, but it's all good at the end of the day. So grace allows you to accept. We might not see things the same, but I'm not going to make a judgment call because I understand that you too are doing your best. The spiritual meaning of grace is the concept of receiving something from someone and passing it on until the environment around you begin to change drastically. It is the concept of receiving and giving, because you can't give what you don't have. And if you have not cultivated and begin to give yourself the grace that you need, you have nothing to give. But when it is an exchange, it begins to change the environment. It begins to create a space of comfort. It begins to hug. It begins to love. It begins to take away judgment. It allows you to be and accept each other for who you really are. Grace does not go with an eye for eye. Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. That's grace. When they go low, we go what? High. We tap into our higher power, which is grace. As African American people, we've had to what? Go high. Not eye for eye. Whoo. Grace is that higher power. Grace is a spiritual gift that involves love and mercy that we give to others, even when we feel they don't deserve it. Especially when we feel they don't deserve it. Especially when you feel that they've made some choices against your highest good. Especially when you can tap into grace. You don't have to tap into revenge. You don't have to tap into, oh, they're going to get theirs. Grace allows you to understand. Now, it doesn't make you a footstool. Oh, no. Justice is justice. Things happen. What you put out, it will come back. But grace does not allow you to tap into that negative energy. But it allows you to surrender and let them go. Ooh. The giving of love and acceptance and understanding when we don't deserve, and it's not even in our eyesight. Grace allows us to see beyond what it is in front of us. Grace is the how you do something. You know, I often say, who am I doing? Who am I being while I'm doing? Who am I being while I'm doing? You might be doing good stuff, but how are you being? Grace is the being. Grace is making it comfortable for someone. Grace is making you have the ability to be open. And even if you don't agree, grace does not allow you to tear people down. Grace allows you to see it for what it is and to know that if that person is striking out at you, it is because that person is in a lot of pain. Grace will remind you the day when you too had no understanding, when you too struck out at someone. Grace will allow you to bless them as they come and bless them as they go. Grace allows you to try to walk in somebody else's shoes. How am I treating them? Grace says it's not about how you treat me, because you might not understand me. But grace says what's important is how am I treating you? Have I evolved? Have I grown? Have I accepted the apology that was never given? Or do I give my power away? Or do I connect on the level that you're connecting on? You know, the thing that's so beautiful about life is that once you realize, once you're blessed enough to get the insight of who a person, who they are and how they operate and how they move through life, that is one of the greatest blessings that you can get, because then grace can allow you to accept this is who they are. And if who they are does not work for me, I have the power to allow them, to release them, and to let them go. And thank them for the insight. Thank them for the journey. Thank them for allowing me to realize what works for me, what doesn't work for me. Thank them for allowing me to create the boundaries for myself. People tell you who they are all the time. Are you listening? Grace allows you to listen and not make it personal. Even when you were not given love and support that you felt you needed, grace is the understanding that your mama, that your daddy, whether your dad was in your life or whoever, were doing their best. And with grace, I don't have to play the blame game because I know what it is that I need in order for me to create the reality that I want, in order for me to have the peace that I choose in my life is within. It is the grace that comforts me, that holds me, that allows me to know this too shall pass. The act of grace encourages us to look past the differences, and it invokes a sense of togetherness by spreading positivity. It allows us to connect on a whole different level. It is important to remember the meaning of grace does not mean that we're all going to agree. No, that's what makes the world go around, because we all see things different. But it does allow us to simply be okay with where you are. You know, the thing about like when I evolved from being a religious person to becoming a spiritual person, you know, my first instinct was that, oh my God, I want to change the world. I want, you know, I want people to know there's another way to, and it was like, no. Grace says it all works. It has to do with where you are. Grace says that if that no longer works for you, you can gently bless it and let it go and be grateful for where it brought you. But to understand that on the journey that you're taking, it no longer serves you. Grace is a choice. It's a choice. It's something that's within us. Some of us have probably never even become aware of the grace that's within us. Some of us have never even maybe taken the time to see what is this higher power? How can I connect to the source of the higher power? How can I walk through life just a little bit different without playing blame game? How can I keep my power and not allow myself to be plugged in or to be taken into places that I no longer want to do? Grace allows you to see your capability without being judged. I need to know what I'm capable of. Grace allows me to see what I'm capable of without judging myself. Grace is the gift because it comes from love. There's nothing that you need to do to earn it. Isn't that awesome? Because you know we were brought up that everything we had to earn. We had to earn love, or we had to earn to go to the next level. Everything, life is a lesson. I never believed that life is a lesson. I feel like life is an experience, and there's a difference. Grace is a choice that you didn't have to earn. There's nothing that you needed to do. do in order to receive it. It's like love because it comes from love. And love just is. It is from love we came, it is to love we shall return. And in the meantime, there is grace to carry us through our experiences. That's how powerful grace is. Mm. Wow. Grace is going out of your way to receive, to accept others. Martin Luther King Jr. has taught us grace is to extend love to those that have not loved us. How was he able to do it? Because he was connected to grace, which was within him. He was able to extend love that was not extended to us. Because without that, we would not be able to move forward. It would have been eye for eye. We would have destroyed each other. We would have destroyed the world. It was the grace of love. Emerging grace is forgiveness. It's arising. It's coming out. In my closing, grace, having grace with your words, when you're speaking to people, respond with grace. I remember my grandmother, which was my first insight into love. She was my shero. She was my everything. And what I remember so much about her is her grace. And I remember going to her and saying to her, but Grandma, they're not treating us right as people of color, as Black people. And I remember her saying, and now I understand it because at that time in my life, I did not have this understanding. And she said, oh, in the by and by, all is well. And I'd say to her, Grandma, it's not about the by and by. But she knew that God's grace, love's grace, was sufficient. And she would say, honey, grace is sufficient. Love is sufficient. Grace is enough. And I didn't understand that it was grace that was carrying her through, that allowed her to continue to give love, to continue to be kind. She fed the hungry because she knew that grace was sufficient. She didn't look for the world to accept her. And so now I understand, as a Black woman, grace is sufficient. As a lesbian woman, sometimes not being accepted in society, whether you're trans, whether you're bi, whether you're Black, whether you're gay, grace is sufficient. Not being understood, even by those that you love or those that say that they love you. Grace is sufficient. You've had some abandonment. You wanted some people to love you that could not love you because they could not love themselves. I'm here this morning to let you know grace is sufficient. Sometimes we've been abused in our lives, emotionally abused, mentally abused, physically abused. Grace is sufficient because it's not how you treat me, but it's how I treat you. Because emerging grace is sufficient. Listen, you have everything you need in order for you to be and do what it is that you desire. You have the tools within you for you to create that sense of peace and power that is within. We're all doing our best at all times. Grace does not allow you to be a doormat. Grace does not require you be abused. But because grace is sufficient and it is enough, it allows you and gives you the power within to let go, let God walk away, shut it down. And you can do that in a very loving and kind way because grace is sufficient. God bless you and thank you.